Good evening. Welcome to the Crestwood School District Study Session. We will call this meeting to order at 5:29. Mr. Secretary?
Trustee Amon?
Here.
VP Janoon?
Here.
Trustee Baydoun?
Here.
President Sabal?
Here.
Trustee Elziat?
Here.
I am here. Trustee Fawaz?
Here.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Dr. Musalam?
All right, good day, President Sabo, good day, board, community. Are you okay if I just present from here, or would you like me at the podium? Here's good?
You're
Okay.
fine there.
All right. So, as I updated the board prior, spring scores came out about 2 weeks ago, and I sent the board a preliminary, very similar presentation to what I'm giving you today in reference to our spring 2025 data review. This is going to be a preliminary report, and what I mean by that is we're going to talk about the data today and some key points. In about a month, you will have the district strategic review team that will be here to present to you our district strategic team review and next steps for the district strategic planning. As I had mentioned in a previous board meeting, we are now at 5 years since we adopted our strategic plan in 2020, and the goal is every 3 to 5 years you review that plan based on your data, because you want to look at long-term data and how that plan is impacting your data. So we've already started some preliminary meetings. We will have our larger meetings coming up in the next week or so, where then a full report will be given to the board on where we're at in our strategic plan, what we might be replacing, what we might be adding, and we can come back and say, we're not going to change any of this. We're just going to focus a lot more in these different areas. So I'm going to jump into the presentation, and please, at any time, if you want to stop me to ask a question, please feel free, because it's a lot of information. And if it is something you ask me and say, I'm going to come to that, just please, because then I want to get to that slide. But most likely, we'll be on the same page. So real quick, talking about assessments. So school districts have two types of assessments. We have the local and we have the state. Local assessments are what we do on a regular basis, things that we do as a school district that are not mandated by the state or the federal government, such as formative and summative assessments. Now, what are the difference between formative and summative? Formative assessments are classroom assessments that teachers use these assessments to test for learning. So there are multiple assessments to see where the students are in order to make adjustments in curriculum. Summative assessments are like that end of the semester test or end of a unit test. That's testing what the students know. So this is a direction that in the last 5 years we've really pushed forward on. And I can tell you, I know all of our schools are looking at what are called DOK levels, depth of knowledge levels. Those are levels 1 through 5. 1 being very basic, like recall, 5 being very analytical. And our goal as a district is to develop all of our formative assessments as well as our summative assessments on DOK 3 through 5. And the reason for that is because it helps students to think beyond just recall. When you take PSAT, SAT, MSTEP, none of it's recall. It's all analysis. So in both formative and summative assessments, we're doing that, and you'll get more on that when we do the strategic plan review. We as a district adopted iReady. iReady is assessment for grades 3 through 8, as well as Horizon, which is an assessment grades 9 through 10. These two assessments are aligned with the Common Core state standards, and they are given 3 times a year. They're given in September to check where the students are, given in January, February, check where the students are moving to see how much further they need to go, and then given again in May to see where they ended up. With the use of iReady and Horizon through professional learning communities, staff look at that data, they identify areas that there may be weaknesses or strengths, and make adjustments to curriculum and instruction. And then the state assessments, we all know, is the MSTEP and so on and so forth. The WIDA is an assessment that is given for English language learners to determine if they are non-English speaking all the way up through proficient or advanced proficient. And there's a slide that I'll go over that a little bit on as well.
Dr. Musal?
Yes.
Do any of these tests reflect or have any kind of input into the student's grade?
The Horizon has an impact on high school grade in terms of a small percentage, It's a very small percentage because we want students to take the assessment seriously. And what's happening is, once we started implementing that percentage, and I don't have it off the top of my head, but it's a very small percentage. It's 10%. What ends up happening is we've noticed this last year that more students took the assessment seriously. And all we're looking for, we're not looking for proficiency, we're looking for growth. So if the students show growth on the horizon from fall to April, they get that, it's a positive boost. So it searches for growth. And being that last year was the first year we did that, something that hopefully is gonna catch fire every year and continue to show not only success on the horizon, but also in the classroom.
So the first one kind of wouldn't count, the fall one, because that's their first time taking it.
That's their baseline.
And then the spring one, it's gonna be based off what they improved upon.
Correct. Yeah, correct. So we're not looking for proficiency, we're looking for growth.
And if they, which they shouldn't, but if they do worse, obviously that's gonna be negative.
It would be, yes.
On their grade?
It's a 10% of their total grade.
But, yeah, it's nothing major, but, so just obviously dot line trend. Real quick question about WIDA. When a student becomes proficient, when do we stop giving them WIDA?
Right when they become proficient.
And then we just leave it at that?
We're done.
Got it.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
Dr. Plum, so, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'll take control. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dave.
Oh, okay.
Just-
So if it affects their grade, they take multiple classes, so how does it affect their overall GPA?
It affects their language arts grade or their math grade,
Okay,
because those are the two areas that they're being assessed on.
gotcha, okay.
So I know that there was issues, and obviously it was the first year, with like students that were borderline, like a B plus to an A, where it affected like students that were 4.0 or, to then no longer have a 4.0. So I think there was a lot of parents who were upset with that. I know it happened to my daughter as one of them, and I didn't necessarily say anything about it because I was like, okay, first year. So let's just say this year, I know you're proficient.
I was just gonna say, yeah.
Sorry.
I'm sitting right next to you, and I'm having a hard time hearing you.
So let's just say, can you hear me?
Yeah.
So if you're proficient in one, or you're not proficient in
It's
an
not
area.
proficient, it's based on growth.
But right now, if you're not proficient and you want to see growth, so I'm using this as an example because let's just say my daughter who did well in one, didn't do well or isn't where she's supposed to be in another, how are we making sure that she's going to grow in that? I think I'm a little more concerned about that.
Well, the idea is that when teachers are looking at this horizon data, the data follows the students, so they identify the areas that the students are struggling
Yeah.
in order to adjust curriculum.
It's just funny because you do well and you get A's all year and you take which obviously I don't take, my testing isn't the best. I'm not a good tester. So I know that sometimes that also plays a role. So I'm not gonna lie, I'm not super crazy about using it against them, being that I had that experience with my own child who was a 4.0 student and does care and was super, super upset about having that affect her grade. But I don't know how, but I do agree that I don't know how else to get them to take it more seriously. So I'm just talking out loud.
You have to benchmark, so, and that's, it doesn't matter what program you use, you're gonna benchmark.
Yeah.
It-
Wait, I guess, to follow up with her, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
If someone is struggling in a, just certain area like you're saying, but not everyone, so you're not gonna, adjust the curriculum based off, a small percentage of kids, is there something else that we would be doing to help those kids to improve for the next go-around?
So that's where, as a district, we have moved and we're going to continue to move, where there is differentiated instruction in the classroom, where the idea is we're moving more towards small group instruction, which helps differentiate the instruction. Are we 100% there yet? No, and we're moving in that direction. It's much stronger in the elementary, and we're growing that in the secondary. But what the horizon of the iReady does is it looks at the student scores as a whole in terms of what areas are more students successful on in other areas, and then it looks at you as a classroom teacher. You look at the outliers in certain specific areas within the classroom that students are not meeting or matching where they need to go. So it's the differentiated instruction in the classroom with coaches pushing into classrooms, In the secondary, we don't have interventionists like we do in the elementary or the middle school. Elementary and middle school, we have more interventions. We have some in the high school, but not at the same level. And a lot of that is because logistically, it's very difficult to do, and hiring the number of people to do it, it's very hard because you're looking at such higher numbers. But this comes down to instructional strategies, differentiated instruction, which we call Tier 1 instruction. And Tier 1 instruction is the teachers focus on looking at all the students in their class to see where they're strong, where they're weak, where there's areas that they can improve. And then we narrow it down even further, where we look at intervention strategies, which are Tier 2 interventions with our coaches who push into classrooms and help out the teachers with modeling in different formats. We're also currently reviewing some different differentiated supplemental materials in the middle school and the high school, specifically looking at math. So that's one area that we're really focusing a lot of our attention on right now.
How many pages is this presentation?
A lot, but I'll go through it
So
quickly.
why don't we do this, just for the sake of time? If you can write down your questions, write down the page that it was on, and when we're done, we'll come back to any questions that we may have, so we can get through this.
Sure.
Okay?
Whatever's
Thank
easy.
you.
You're welcome. So this is an important slide because, we always talk about subgroups and subcategories. This is the number of students that we have in our district currently per grade that are considered English language learners. And if you notice, you see in 10th grade, we have 100 of our students are English language learners. There's about 300, we've got about 300 students in 11th grade, 320 approximately. So you're looking at, over 30, 40, almost 40% of our 10th graders are English language learners. Now, there's a slide I'm going to show you in a moment that talks about transiency data, the number of students that came new into our school or that left and came to our district per grade level. And I could tell you, if you break the data down even further, those new students that come in, vast majority are English language learners. And they're coming from different school districts, charter schools, private schools, and they're coming to us. But these numbers are very important to understand because one thing about the MSTEP and PSAT, they are valid, they are reliable. See, tests are looked at as being valid or reliable, valid and reliable. They are reliable because if Yusuf Masalam takes the test 5 times, he's going to score plus or minus 5 points in all 5 of those assessments. But they're really not valid. And the reason why I say they're really not valid is because every one of these tests are reading tests. What valid means is that you are testing what you want to know. So if you want to know if a kid knows how to do addition, you put on the test, 2 + 2 = 4. If you put on the test, Johnny has $2, walks to the corner store with Frank, who has $2. They run into Sammy, who needs to borrow $2. Johnny and Frank give $1 each. I know I lost all of you, but that's how the test is. And the students have to keep up with that a lot of times. So the reason why this information is very important, and it also impacts special education students, is because you're assessing math, let's say, but you're also assessing literacy. So we have to keep that in mind. Also, a lot of our English language learners that come to us, if they come from overseas, they come from disrupted schooling, and or if they're coming to us from another school district, they may not have had an EL program or a charter school that we have. So these numbers are very important to understand. As we move forward, we are at or right around the state average of exiting the number of EL students out of our district. We exit on average 10% a year. Now, a nice thing is, if you look at fourth grade, we exited 31 students last year. Now, the reason why is because those 31 students we exited last year were long-term Crestwood students. Like, they were with us for over 2-3 years in our elementary schools. Also, the research illustrates that students in pre-K through 5 exit quicker as EL students because when you're learning a second language at that age, the plasticity of your brain allows you to adopt and adapt to new languages faster than in the secondary level. If you go back and you look at, let's say, 10th grade, you got 100 of those kids are EL. And then you come here and you only had 2 kids or 4 kids who exited in 11th grade. That's because a lot of these students who are EL, they're older EL students. It takes longer for them. And plus, a lot of these students as English language learners, if they're in 9th grade, they're reading at a 3rd or 4th grade reading level. So our goal is for them to improve every year. But what the data doesn't show is their improvement. It only shows proficiency. So it takes time. Our special education population. If you look, you see the yellow is last year and the blue is 22-23. So you see an increase last year compared to 22-23 from PK. Well, if you look at PK, preschool, kindergarten, and first grade, we have a large influx of special education students. This is something that we're seeing on a regular basis. It's not just Crestwood. It's districts across the county. When you dig deep into these numbers, do you remember, Andrew, what percentage was considered ASD? I know we talked about it, but it was a high number, right? It was a pretty high number. I don't have that number right now, but a lot of students are coming to us identified as autistic spectrum, on the autism spectrum disorder, ASD. So some of these students will leave us, maybe second or third grade, some won't. And the reason why I say that is based on their need. We may not be able to support their need with the programming that we currently have, although we're going to be supporting it with one classroom once the RMS bond piece is complete. We're going to build one classroom. But these numbers are key and important, and the reason for that is when you see special education students and you see these numbers, a lot of these special education students are also EL students. So they have double whammy. They're learning English, they're learning, how to be an active member of society in a new country, as well as having special needs. So these numbers are also very important to understand.
I'm sorry, when you stepped out, we just changed it a little bit because we were taking too long on the first one. He's got a lot. If you can write down the question and the slide, we'll come back to it at the end. Thank you.
And then this is just the total throughout the year. So you see we're up by close to 41 students from 2 years ago in special education. This chart here is very important. We talk about transiency. This is the transiency per grade level for the last 3 years. And it's from 3rd grade to 11th grade. And we only did it based on the grades that we are assessed on. So if you see our transiency, 25-26, the transiency looks less because that's only first semester. That's only like right now. But as the year goes on, we'll get more students and that number will increase. But if you see the averages in 23-24 to 24-25, that's every grade level, the number of new students we have in our district. These are students that are new to the Crestwood schools, or they left and came back. And this is very important to understand because when you look at the data and you dig very deep in the data, there is differentiation between students who are long-term Crestwood students compared to students who come in and out of our district. And if you look, 9th grade always has the biggest spike. Now, for a while, what we were seeing was students would leave us in 5th grade or 6th grade and then come back to us. And a lot of that we thought, has to do with the 5th graders being in the middle school, so on and so forth. So we're thinking that had to do with it. We won't know for sure, but being that next year, our current 4th graders will stay in 5th grade, we'll see how those numbers are impacted as well. But 9th grade has the largest spike when it comes to transiency students. And if you want to tie that back, let's go back to EL. If you look at 9th grade EL, you got 91 kids that are EL in 9th grade. So this is the iReady. Every one of our schools and every grade level showed growth. So what you see on the left was the fall, and what you see on the right is the spring, and you see the data of the growth. The idea is that everybody moves up and to the right. So all schools had improved growth from fall to spring iReady. That was for ELA, reading and writing, and then this was iReady winter to spring as well. And we looked at winter to spring not fall to spring, because we wanted to see what our growth was from the second assessment to the third assessment, because that shows us more than the fall to spring will show. So we're seeing growth in all those areas. Horizons, this was the first assessment done on PSAT 8-9 to the second assessment. So this is hitting the benchmark. So the average score for the first assessment was 838. The next year, the average score was 870. And that was ninth grade. This is 10th grade PSAT. We're from 781 to 843. So we're seeing regular growth. SAT, we saw growth from 927 to 1037. So we're seeing growth on all the assessments across the board, which takes us into the M-STEP data. So as the board is aware, our district was identified as an outlier district in third grade literacy scores. If you look at our grade 3 ELA for 2025, we scored 56% of our students scored proficient, which you can see is much higher than the state, which was 38.9, and much higher than the county, which was 30, plus an increase from last year. When you look at grade 4 ELA, so we had an increase cohort to cohort. Grade 4 last year was 2.7% higher, but we're still ahead of the state and the county. So we're continuing that growth. Grade 5 ELA, we had growth from the year before, which we were very happy about, because fifth grade has been a major focus area for us. And, you know, hopefully our goal is that when fifth grade goes to elementary, these scores are going to continue to rise. Grade 6 ELA, we had a stumbling block. So we're looking into that data deeply. We're looking at, okay, where did we, what happened? I mean, why did this happen? So the first thing we look at is, all right, scope and sequence. Is the scope and sequence of the 6th grade ELA curriculum on target? What's the level of rigor? And are we hitting the correct standards between the start of the year up to the assessment? So our teams are already looking into this to see what happened here. When you look at grade 7 ELA, remember last year we had, we didn't do very well. Well, this year we more than doubled our scores in grade 7 ELA. We're still a little bit behind the state, and that's because of the catch-up we're playing right now from the previous year. But again, we're looking deep into that further to see what more can we do. And then grade 8 PSAT ELA, we did well. We're 61.4%. We're above the county. We're just a little bit below the state. And it's a continuation of review and evaluation. So we're moving in the right direction. Other than grade 6 ELA, when it comes to ELA scores, we're moving in the right direction, and we're going to dig deeper in those areas. So this is just a brief synopsis. I won't go into too much detail on this, but you can see for each grade level ELA, I have a statement and different things that we're looking at. But some very positive is grade 3 from 2022. Grade 3 is up 14%. Grade 5 is up 12.6%. Grade 8 is up 6%. Grade 9 is up 8%. And grade 11, 9 and 11, you'll see in a minute, are up 7%. So we're seeing growth over the last 3 years across the board. We got a couple areas that we got to focus on. And then here just talks about what I had mentioned about what we're reviewing. And our focus areas are as seen below, 4, 6, and 8. Math. So grade 3 math, again, grade 3, we're doing some good things. Just want to reiterate, the board remembers a long time ago, and I've said it all the time, we're going to invest a lot in early L, and the idea is that that is continuous all the way through, because we're looking at long-term legacy. So you see our scores here, grade 3 math, grade, 64.7%. Grade 4 math, we're up again, 47.9%. So grade 3 and 4 math is good, and this is positive. And this also has to do with the fact that we've also adjusted our math curriculum. I don't know if the board remembers, you approved a new math curriculum 2 years ago. We're 2 years into that math curriculum now, so it's making a difference. Grade 5 math, which was one of the areas I was extremely happy with, because that was an area that we really needed to jump, and we did. So grade 5's making some good moves, both areas. But then again, grade 6, we had a drop. So we're looking deeply into what's happening in grade 6 to why are we not having the growth we need to have. And again, that comes down to our professional learning communities, looking at the curriculum, looking at scope and sequence, looking at the rigor, looking at the assessments that the teachers are giving the students during the school year. You can see in grade 6 math, the state and the county don't have very good scores either, although we always want to be higher than the state, so that's always one of our goals. So we're looking deeply into that to see where is there a disconnect. Grade 7 math, we had growth. Grade 8 PSAT math, we had a drop, and this was somewhat of a shock to us. So we're digging deep into the PSAT math to see, okay, what are we doing? Again, I don't want to reiterate, but this is a focus area. So again, this is just a quick synopsis of what I was just discussing, but looking at from 2022, grade 3 is up 25%, grade 4 is up 10%, grade 5 is up 26%, grade 6 is up 4%, and as you will see in a moment, grade 7 was up 10% and grade 8 was up 6%. Middle school math and ninth, basically grade 6 through 10 math is going to be our major focus area this school year. And that's really what we're looking at and we're really focusing on. We're getting growth in elementary, now we got to push that growth up through secondary. One of the issues I do know that we have is we've had some substitutes in math classes because we've had a difficult time finding math teachers. So hopefully I think we're fully staffed now in math and that's going to play a positive role. So PSAT 9 ELA, we got growth in ELA, we're stagnant in math. Again, going back to that's why we're going to have that major focus in math. PSAT 10, we had a little bit of a drop in ELA, we had growth in math. So we're looking at, okay, what are we doing in 9th that we're not doing in 10th, and are we increasing the rigor of expectations in 10 as we did in 9? So it's a constant review. PSAT 10 math, we had an increase, but our goal is to always be above the state, and we're just going to continue working on that. Now, SAT reading and writing, we had great growth, very close to the state. So as you can see, we've got a lot of areas of growth, and we have some areas that we need to reevaluate. And then math, we're below the state. We had a little bit of a drop from last year, and we're focusing on that. So again, just a quick breakdown of what I just discussed. Grade 9 is up 8% from 2022 in ELA, and grade 11 is up 6.6% from 2022 in ELA. So we're making a lot more strides in ELA. We need to make more strides in math, and that's why we're adjusting our curriculum. But being that we have brought in new math curriculum in the lower levels, we're hoping that's going to help us move forward. Again, a breakdown for math, and we need to, again, look at all of our data and identify what areas we need to emphasize and grow on. So next steps, this is the last slide. This data is being used by the district strategic team. Zainab and Rachel are breaking down the subgroup data, EL data, special education data, so on and so forth, to see that subgroup data, to identify within the subgroups where do we need to improve and how we can get better. Again, like I said, the review happens every 3 to 5 years. We're going to be tying the data to programming, so we're going to tie it to literacy, numeracy, and social emotional learning. One of the things that is already happening is we've adjusted our targeted interventions and instructional coaching that is very laser and pinpointed now on where the data says. So we know which grade levels have the most need. We know which areas we need to emphasize, so that's where we're having more targeted interventions and instructional coaching. We're focusing as a district more on small group instruction, talked about the rigor and assessments, and also multiple tiers of student support goes back to Trustee Fawaz's question on how we're supporting students. That's also what's called it's an MTSS process, the multiple tiers of student supports, which is a system used for teachers to have conversations to identify students who are struggling and or and to identify solutions and interventions to support those students. And a lot of times the parents are part of that conversation as well. Literacy, we know where we got to get better, and this is from the data, is informational text, that's nonfiction, text analysis, the ability to take two pieces of text, find correlations, reader's voice, annotation, as well as stamina. What we believe is happening in some of these grade levels is that as the test gets harder, the test also gets longer. So are we building the stamina of the students to take the assessment? So sometimes it's not even it's not just the curriculum. It's because, you know, as students go through the test, man, I'll forget it. They just start marking answers because they're done. They don't want to deal with it anymore. It happens. We're trying to get over that. We're going to work on that. For numeracy, we are looking at going back to more of a we're not going to swing the pendulum all the way back. We're going to continue focusing on numeracy, which is the language of math. But we're also going to start looking at mathematical computational skills. A lot more drill. Going back to some more drill and, having students do math drills as part of building that stamina and that success. ESL supports and push-in interventions, as well as special education supports and push-in interventions. So these are all things that are going to be reviewed in the district strategic planning review team, tying it to the data to come back and say, all right, this is what we're doing. This is what we feel we're doing well. This is what we got to get a little bit better at. And maybe we need to look for something else instead of this. So it's a process. It's teachers, it's parents, it's administrators working together through this process. This is not something that is top down. I'm not dictating, I'm just facilitating. As well as Andrea, her and I, we're facilitating, we're not dictating. So that's the presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Masalam. I will ask, guys, if you can please turn on your microphones if you have questions. Trustee Alzay, I know you had a question. Do you still want to ask it?
Yes, please. Could we go back to slide 5, Dr. Mosallam?
Which one was? I don't have them numbered. Oh, I do have them numbered. Never
Yeah,
mind.
they're on the bottom.
I just saw that. I was smarter than I thought.
There you go.
Okay.
My question to you is, how do the special education numbers take into consideration students with IEPs? So students who have an individualized plan, do they automatically get put into the numbers with special education, or do they stay with gen ed data, and then at a certain point, depending on their impairment, do they get then moved to the special needs data?
So every student with an IEP is a special education student.
Right.
So every one of these students here has an IEP. It
Right.
ranges from speech all the way up to ASD.
Okay,
Their data is part of the whole aggregate of the district, plus they have their own special education categorical data. Students that have IEPs and are special education, Andrea, you can correct me if I'm wrong, usually don't exit special education unless it's a speech.
that's what
or-
I mean. So when they
Money.
go back, so I know that some do. It's a very small number
Yeah.
because if it was a speech impairment, for example, speech impairment gets corrected. So then they go back to gen ed, or they start gen ed. Then do those numbers switch?
They would no longer be part of the special education.
So
number.
they'd just be part of the gen ed?
Yep, they would be part of the regular aggregate.
Okay, that was my question.
Yep.
Thank you.
Sorry, Andrew, did I?
Is that a pretty common occurrence, or are those numbers much smaller, like one-offs?
It's smaller if they have a speech impairment and they're able to get help within 2 years, but every individualized plan is different. So my kid could need 3-4 years of speech therapy. Haas's kid could need all the way through, even to graduation.
Sure.
So they're still labeled as an IEP student, right? So they're special ed, they're doing the testing, categorized as a special ed student. But if it's only I don't wanna say it, I don't know, for lack of better terms, if it's only, let's say, a speech impairment, that wouldn't necessarily affect like their ability to test like a regular gen ed student.
Sure.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's how I was looking at it.
Thank you. Dr. Masalam, you used the word autism spectrum. Who's that assessed by for a
Andrew,
student to be, I don't want to use the word labeled because I don't like that word, but to be
So-
diagnosed as that?
So an outside medical diagnosis doesn't dictate an educational diagnosis as well. So there's criteria that they have to meet for the school setting to have the label of a student with an autism spectrum disorder. Simply having a medical diagnosis, we have to be able to demonstrate it has an academic impact on the student. So they could come to us with an outside diagnosis and request a school one. More times than not, there is a direct correlation, and they would qualify for services.
How often is that re-examined?
Every 3 years, there's a reevaluation process as part of the IEP. So the team comes to the table every 3 years to determine if it needs to be reevaluated, if we want more current data to continue to receive services for special education.
I'm sorry, I'm picking on this question for a reason. And the staff that actually diagnoses or puts somebody into a special education category, because we're not looking at outside medical evaluations, we're really looking at internal evaluations. What is the certification to be able to justify such a classification? And I'm not talking about just Crestwood, I'm talking about the state level, the county level, everywhere.
Well, it follows, it's a school psychologist that has the same degree as a psychologist on the outside who would make that diagnosis. And then the state, so special education is through the federal government, so they determine criteria, and then the state also has MARS rules that we have to follow. So they have to meet criteria in a couple of areas to be identified as a student on the autism spectrum disorder. And for an educational placement, we're discussing how it impacts their access to the curriculum or their academic impact.
Okay, thank you.
That's why there is that spectrum, because it could be, student remains in gen ed and is fully functioning and is able to earn a diploma with the right supports in place, to somebody who is nonverbal, extremely high need, who needs, more intensive support.
I'm not questioning, I'm sure you can understand, like, I have a lot of questions as to that process. I don't have an answer. Like, I'm not questioning how it's set up through the Department of Education. I don't know if I like it.
Are you questioning the increase in that?
Not just the increase, the fact that, and I get that we have school psychologists that are equivalent to psychologists. I don't know. I don't know how, it just doesn't make me feel right for some reason, like to the point of when we diagnose, and I hate to use the word diagnose in this situation, but when we classify someone as something and then it's 3 years, that
A parent can request it at any time.
Correct. I'm okay. Listen, parents
Yeah.
know their kids better than we'll ever know them, right?
Right.
I mean, at the end of the day, if a parent tells you, my child has special needs, then we need to take that very seriously. Again, I'm not questioning, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, I'm just saying something doesn't feel right to me and again, you're not drawing the system out, I'm just speaking my frustrations out loud, I apologize, but, any other questions?
It is a
Mr. Chair?
combination.
A combination?
I mean, it's a combination, like if the parents are working with the school and then sometimes a pediatrician, sometimes a psychologist. And one of the most interesting things about students on the ASD spectrum is some students are extremely intelligent.
Correct.
So like as
Oh, yeah.
far as like scoring or testing
yeah.
or grades, like they score better than gen admin
Correct.
students, depending on their disability.
I've just had parents say to me, they're trying to classify my child as special
I
education.
know, and it's upsetting for.
And he's not, or she's not, right?
Right.
And that's where thank God, I'm not talking about any of my children, they were, not in the special ed programs, but
The good thing is, and I know Andrea was mentioning it, the good thing is it's not a one-time you're in. There's a process. It's a process to be identified. We don't just say, this child needs to be in special education.
And a parent has to agree with that.
well, I'm with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
And they
just
have to
want-
agree to the testing, like if the school district has concerns, and through the MTSS process, we're bringing a parent to the table to say that we want to go in that direction. The parent has to give us permission to test, and if
Correct.
they don't, then we don't move forward.
When I say, thank God, it's like, that's a challenge in itself for parents and for the children. I'm more concerned with the children and the parents, that have a little extra time that they have to give each child on a daily basis. That was my concern, that's all. I
Well, and
just-
one thing I will say with the high increase in the PK and kindergarten numbers is that Michigan does the early on approach and it starts intervention very early to hopefully make those gains. And we've been very intentional in increasing our support to GSRP and preschool as a whole to address those needs kind of earlier and give parents those supports, and
Yes.
have reached out to like local pediatricians on kind of the importance of early on for speech delays or things that we can if we address in a shorter amount of time.
All right, thank you. Trustee Baydoun, sorry about that.
All good. Dr. Masalam, slide 3, please. So what is the correlation of students from the number of students that joined our district later in their, basically from overseas, from out of town?
So that would be a deeper dig in the data. I don't have that number, but basically what we would have to do is, like, for example, grade 10, you see there's 100. We'd have to identify all 100 of those students and then identify which of those students were new to our district within 2 to 3 years of that grade level. So it would be a much deeper data dig. We haven't dug that deep in a lot of these areas just because we know that no matter if they're EL or not, we have to give them the support to service.
For
But I'd have to dig in that much deeper.
But I think that will at least help the administration understand if the rigor is where it should be when you, not saying separate, but I'm saying look at the data in a different light,
How to proceed.
how to proceed, right? Maybe it helps the data, I don't know. But
No, it would narrow it down to specific students, which would be a much deeper data dig, and yeah, that's something that definitely we can, push forward to try to identify. I do know that Andrea Wood has been updating the MyStar platform where teachers can pull up all their students and find a lot of this information of the students in their classroom. And she's been updating that, so we're getting more and more of that
it could be a
done.
data dump later.
Yeah, so she's been working very closely with Andrew O'Hara and the team on identifying through this process, through these discussions, like, okay, what's the next thing we need? And how are we gonna get there? And Andrea Wood has been our go-to person where she's working with the county. And she actually, just in the last meeting, she was talking with someone from a different county, and they're like, yeah, this is how we do it. So she's taking that back to our county saying, hey, can we do this too? So we are going in that direction, we just haven't broken it down that far as of yet.
And then the next slide, you see the exit, the 31, right? Is
Yeah.
that out of the 82 in the previous slide?
That is, this is 2025's exit, so yes. Yes,
So
because
that's really 50-some.
there were, yeah, so if you take out how
Okay.
many have exited, yes.
So that's a good thing.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
That's all I had. Thank you.
Any other questions? Trustee Foils?
Thank you. So along the same lines as both of them, if you could deep dive, because one of my questions was how many, like in slide 3, I think, for a further breakdown of, for example, the special needs children versus the general. And the only reason I'm thinking like to deep dive these numbers a little further is because, like he said, I think it gives us an idea of how to proceed and how to accommodate or help them, versus, trying to help, general education when we should be maybe focusing on the other one, or
So
vice versa.
are you talking like, Haas had mentioned, the number of these students that are transient students in EL and special ed?
The special education ones versus the general education for, like the WIDA and for some of the testing.
Okay, so the numbers we have here, those are the number of special education students per that grade level.
Per grade level.
So what more would you want to see? I'm just not
But when
understanding. what
you're,
I'm saying.
so your chart, for example, on the WIDA chart,
Yes,
you said some of those numbers, I think number
you want to
3.
know cross-categorical.
Yeah,
How
like,
many of these students are cross-categorical?
I think it's slide 3,
How many of those are special ed and EL?
correct.
Got it. No, that we can do,
Okay.
yeah.
And then, for the upcoming presentation that you said, they'll be, presenting to us, if they can deep dive a little further as far as, on a number of the slides you said, we haven't broken it down, much yet. We're still, looking into that. Will they have that data for us?
So,
Like, for example, page 18, I don't know if it was math or literacy. Okay, yeah, here. So for example, the grade 6, 2004, when we are at 23%, state's at 31, would they be able to tell us what the improvement plan is at the next
yeah,
presentation?
that's gonna be the idea.
Okay,
So the idea is that right now, the teams are already looking into our scope and sequence, the curriculum that we're covering, the level of rigor, what are the different interventions that we have in place, what are some new interventions maybe we need to put in place. They're also looking at content, and looking at stamina. So all of these things are being reviewed through the PLC process, and then the district strategic team is gonna take that information and develop the review that's gonna say, all right, we know, so like, for example, when you look at this, oh, it doesn't work there, it doesn't work there either, but we know that our focus areas for math are grades 5, 6, and 8, as well as 10. So we know that. So one of the things that they're gonna be doing is looking deep into that in terms of, okay, why didn't we have enough growth? And the other thing they look at too through the professional learning communities are the teachers that are showing good growth. Let's say, like, 4th grade had that growth in math. What are they doing that maybe the 5th grade teachers can be doing? And how is the test different in 5th grade than it is in 4th grade? And a lot of that comes down to the stamina and the difficulty of the test. And a lot of times, the reason why in the first slide I talked about the summative and formative assessments and the DOK, the depth of knowledge, is are the assessments that we're giving our students during the school year, are they rigorous enough where the students are building strengths when they get to the M-STEP or the PSAT? I always use the example. When you prepare for an assessment, it's like preparing for a marathon. You don't just get out there and go run the marathon. The first day you get out there, you run a half a lap. Next day you run a full lap. I mean, whatever. You build your stamina. We as a district we've been moving in that direction. And right now it looks like our biggest hiccup is middle school, like math on through 10th grade math. 9th grade math didn't do too bad, but 10th grade math. So we need to look at that and say, okay, what do we need to adjust? What do we need to do? How are we gonna do it differently? And we're looking at some different things right now. But I wanna reiterate, we adopted iReady Math, which has helped our elementary scores, which now we're hoping, and our 5th grade scores, which now we're hoping is gonna continue to push that to the upper levels.
continue the trend.
Yes.
And then just a couple more. Given everything, given everything you just said, do you think we'll be able to do these programs or adjustments real time, or do you anticipate, like, what kind of time frame?
Honestly, I think everything that we're gonna do is gonna be in real time, and the reason for that is because we have so much already going on in our district in a good way. Where now with this review and this plan, now we can narrow our focus. Now we can say, all right, we're doing this, let's continue to do it, now let's do this in double time. The only thing that could take some time is if the team comes back and says, because there's a couple things I'm having the team look at right now. And they have some meetings scheduled with some different supplemental materials and companies, just to get information, like, is this something that we can use? If the team comes back and says, all right, we really think we need to adopt this. Well, the way it works in our district is if we're gonna adopt something new, we have to go through curriculum council. And then there will be 2, maybe 3 different pilots going on at the same time. That's how we got iReady Math. And the reason for that is because then our teachers have a say in whatever we're gonna adopt. And when the teachers came back to curriculum council, and they came back for iReady Math, they looked at 2 different programs, and they all agreed that iReady Math showed the most growth and the teachers felt the most comfortable with it. So we give our teachers the opportunity to make those determinations. So if we're gonna adopt anything new, that will take time. But if we're looking at just what we're currently doing and making adjustments, that will be real time.
Okay. And then how often you look at the data?
Oh, we look at the data, so we look at the data 3 times a year with Horizon and iReady, And with M-STEP and PSAT, it's a one-time test, so it's when we get it, whenever we get it, we start reviewing it. And it comes out slow. See, like, I wish I had all this data in May, because then I would've gave this presentation in June, and our staff, our teams would've got together in June, we would've did some summer workshops, and we would've hit the ball, the floor running in September. But, yeah. So
Okay.
that's our dilemma. That's why, and Selma, I wanna add, that's why a lot of times we can't do things like adoption in real time, because you see, it's already mid-September, we got the data 2 weeks ago.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Okay, one last request, and I don't know if, for the next presentation that the staff will be giving to us, with the further detail, would it be more beneficial for us, just for time constraints, because I know we're always time constrained, to get it ahead of time so we can kind of do our questions ahead of time?
You will.
Or, like schedule it longer or some, to allow for this?
No, just like all presentations, we'll get it to you ahead of time, 'cause that's why I gave you this one a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
We'll get it to you ahead of time, you can look it over, you can find some, jot down, because some of your questions might get answered during the presentation as well.
Okay.
Yeah, but definitely, we will always get it to you ahead of time.
All right, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Any other questions? I was just making fun of Selwa. I only have 25 more questions, but that's okay. Okay, thank you, Dr. Masalam.
Thank you.
So I will look for a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chair,
Trustee Fawaz.
motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Trustee Fawaz, supported by Trustee Elzayat. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes 6:21 PM. Thank you.